Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome back to another Mario Party minigame ranking video. This is a very special ranking video because we're taking a look at probably the most overshadowed Mario Party game in existence. When you talk about Mario Party on the Switch, usually 95% of people will put the immediate focal point on Mario Party Superstars. And while I understand why, as it's surely the definitive classic style game in the modern era, I attribute a lot of Superstars' success to what Super Mario Party did for it beforehand. Sure, it still had its own identity, but its main party mode did finally start heading in the direction that people were begging on their knees for ever since its massive departure from Mario Party 9. Not only that, it was the first game that actually went the route of online play, and sure, the more relevant modes didn't have it until 2 years after it came out, but it still set the groundwork for what we would eventually get in Superstars. I just wish they did it earlier when people had not moved on from this game so quickly. Also, the minigames in this title are pretty damn good. I have a feeling that roughly 85% of these will at least be classified as good in some way, if not great, while the remaining unremarkable ones are honestly just there to meet a quota or trope that had previously existed in the series, aka the button mashers and the luck-based ones. But either way, we'll get to that when we get to that. As far as the totals are concerned in terms of what will be ranked here, here's the very simple breakdown. We have 30 free-for-alls, 10 1 vs 3s, 10 2 vs 2s, 10 co-op minigames, 10 rhythm minigames, and 10 team minigames, giving us a total of 80 overall. Now, I am going to be excluding the Toad's Rec Room games, because while some of these would probably be considered minigames in other titles, you can't play these from the main minigame list, which was my initial requirement back when I started this list series back in Mario Party 1. Plus, they're kind of treated like side modes, much like some of the modes in Star Rush, which I also excluded, so as a result, I'll exclude these as well. I'll dedicate a special section for these games after I finish the rankings, where I'll give a brief summary of where I'd rank them if they were included, but I didn't feel like opening that can of worms for this particular ranking, so I decided to just not consider them at all, so I hope you understand that. Okay, I think that about does it for this intro, so let's grab our Joy-Cons and load up some more awesome minigames. Also, don't forget to select our favorite awesome monarch, King Bowser, for your playable character. It's not every day that you get to play as the King of Koopas for this series, and I think it's only right for him to get his dues here.
You're damn right it is.
Whoa! Slim Bowser, how long have you been standing there?
Since you started the video. You did say back in Mario Party 10 that I could come back for this ranking, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right, I did say that, didn't I? Well, I suppose there's still nothing wrong with you helping me out again, and it would lighten the load a little bit for me personally. Quick question, you're not still mad at me for the last anniversary special incident, are you?
You mean when you rudely hung up on me, leaving me in a steaming rage that would forever haunt you for the rest of your days if I ever decided to get my revenge on you? No, I forgot all about that rebellious act of insolence.
Well, I don't know if I 100% believe that, but we have a large list to get through, and I'm willing to risk it so we can get moving in the name of progress. So, let's get this started. This is SlimKirby and Slim Bowser, bringing you my minigame rankings for Super Mario Party.
Hell yeah.
Oh, and before I forget, this list is completely my opinion, so please don't...
Yeah. Everyone has different opinions, blah blah blah. Don't take them personally, blah blah blah. They get it. Just get moving, you slowpoke.
Okay, fine. Hope you guys enjoy. Number 80. This might be a bit surprising, but I'm not actually picking a luck-based minigame this time. Well, kind of, anyway. Lit Potato is gonna be my last placed entry for this list, and this is really just a much worse version of Hot Bob-omb, and it's kind of like Bob-omb McPlague in Mario Party 7, another really bad game. It's a team minigame, so if you have allies, you have a chance to win if you manage to get unlucky, but that's the thing, it still kind of feels like luck plays a huge factor here, even though it technically doesn't. You have to really know the timing for when to hand a bomb over, while also making sure people don't hand you a bomb either. Just a really hard game to get right, and not one I enjoy playing personally. 79. Pull it together. At this point, I'm convinced that the developers just won't be able to ever get tug-of-war right for a minigame. You don't have to rotate the control stick anymore, but changing it into a button masher? Not to mention that since this is a team minigame, ally distribution can really mess this one up. Yeah, this one was a miss. Sorry, Nintendo. Also, what do I normally say about these games, Slim Bowser?
It's a button masher.
Damn straight. Number 78, Trike Harder. It's a Mario Party 8 Waggle Fest, or at least that's what this one feels like. Honestly, it kind of feels worse than that, since I feel like you have to shake the Joy-Con in a very specific way, too. It's just not a very remarkable minigame, and not fun to play for me. Also, how the hell are you riding that thing, Slim Bowser?
I don't know, but it's incredibly uncomfortable.
Number 77, Rattle and Hmm. I know you guys are expecting one very specific minigame, but stay with me, we'll get to that one shortly. Now, I love game shows as much as the next guy, but this one just goes on for way too long. Not only that, but you have to figure out which enemies cause a very specific rumbling with the Joy-Con. And while the first round is pretty brainless, the following rounds are a lot more difficult, and you really have to pay attention to the frequency of not just the vibrations, but down to their most minuscule and minute differences. And that's hard to do when some of these sound so similar. Also, even though I did already say this, again, this game goes on for way too long. Number 76, Drop Quiz. Another trivia game, and although this one is a little better, it can still be kinda difficult, and a little imbalanced for a 1 versus 3 minigame as well. You have 3 rounds, and have to pay attention to the sequence of characters that go by, in terms of what characters and what fruit they have in their possession. Then, the single player asks a question for that sequence, forcing the team to answer via multiple choice, where anyone who selects the wrong answer gets eliminated, and those who get it right move on to the next round. For the team of 3, the last question is really hard, and you almost need each member paying attention to one specific detail of the sequence, just to make sure you have someone who gets the right answer, or at least the best guess. And even then, you still don't know what's going to be asked anyway, so it's a bit of a crapshoot. And funnily enough, even if the team of 3 is stumped, they can at least divide their answers among the remaining teammates, if they survived, so it's not even a surefire win for the single player either, because only one person needs to survive for the team to win. Just a badly developed minigame, I think, when concepts like this have been done so much better in other installments. Number 75, Don't Wake Wiggler. Yeah, I told you guys this one wasn't getting a full pass from me. There is definitely a bit of luck involved with this one, but that's not even the main reason why this game is here. In fact, I'd almost say with the way Super Mario Party is set up, where you can still get coins based on minigame placement, this one is actually a bit more strategic than it appears, as your goal should be less on getting first, and more just on not getting last, if that makes sense. Still though, I can't deny how negatively people feel about this game, and I totally get why. It's definitely one I'd rather not get if possible.
Oh, come on, Slim. This game isn't that bad. It's just a wiggler, nothing to be scared of.
Oh really? Okay, Slim Bowser, just watch the screen for a few seconds and see what happens. Do it, I dare you.
Okay, fine. Ugh! Holy shit! What the was that f***ing shit? My I spilled drink all over my. That was so terrifying.
And my point stands. Number 74, Clearing the Table. The soundstage mode in Super Mario Party was a pretty neat idea, combining the idea of rhythm-based gameplay with the Joy-Con motion controls, and all the minigames generally work pretty well. With the exception of this one, at least for me anyway. I don't know why exactly, but this is the one minigame of this genre where I just can't figure out the timing for it, and I've tried numerous things to fix this with no avail on any of them. I guess the one thing I should be thankful for is that this isn't taking place in real life. Otherwise, there would be tons of glass shards on the floor from me breaking literally every glass in existence. Number 73, Heir to a Fortune. Okay, this one probably isn't too bad since it's a coin minigame and you get whatever you collect, but still, it's annoying that you don't really have any control over what you do get. Not exactly luck-based since you have to mind game over your opponents about which coin cloud to go for, hoping that no one thinks along the same lines as you, but if you really need the money and need to go big, this is not the game you want, unless you truly know your opponents that well. I'll stress, not a bad minigame, but definitely not one I'm hoping for. Number 72, What a Racket. Pretty standard fare for 1 vs 3 minigames, where both teams have the same objective of getting bombs to land on the other team's court, but one side has more bodies and the other has a bigger tool. You'd think the team of 3 has the advantage though, but really I'd much rather play as the single player, just because the racket is so much bigger and the hitbox is very generous. While with the team of 3, sometimes it can be hard just trying to connect your racket with the bomb. Heck, sometimes I hit the bomb and it just goes straight down, giving the other side a point and stunning me in the process. Just feels very unbalanced as a minigame, and it could have been a lot better. Number 71, Rumble Fishing. Not to be confused with Mario Party 4's minigame of the same exact name. In fact, I probably actually prefer this version, even despite its low placement. I think my main issue is that while it's not just a single button press to end the game, it's still very short, and kinda luck-based too, since different fish will have different rumbles, the stronger being bigger, and therefore the ones you want to aim for. But again, you have no control over which spot that one will be, so you kinda have to get lucky that your opponents don't find it themselves. Number 70, Candy Shakedown. Literally the only thing that keeps this minigame so low is the freaking green candy. Their shape makes them the hardest to shake out, and I swear, no matter what I try and how I approach this, they always seem to screw me out of a victory on this one. Otherwise, this would be so much higher, but instead, it's all the way down here. Sorry, I don't have fun with this one. Number 69, Suit Yourselves. The first co-op minigame in the ranking, and it's really this low because it's just kind of boring, long, and way too easy. Seriously, I don't think I've ever not gotten a perfect score on this one. It's really not hard to pay attention to what cards you're going for, and it technically gets easier the further you go along because there's less to pay attention to. Seriously, it's really nothing impressive. Number 68, Timing is Money. A coin minigame with a very simple premise. Time your ground pounds to get coins from the slot machine. If you get a bomb, you lose everything and have to start from scratch. It's a very brutal punishment, especially since it's not too hard to activate it on accident, but if you play conservatively, you should be fine. I always make it a point to start pounding down as soon as I see the bomb below me. That way, it cycles a few windows and gives me the 3 coin, sometimes the 5 if I'm lucky. Don't get too greedy though, because one mistimed input can be the difference between getting a big payday or getting absolutely nothing in return. Number 67, Dart Gallery. I don't know about this one. It doesn't feel too bad or too imbalanced when playing it, but there's so many other 1 vs 3s in this game that are just so much more interesting and fun, and this is just not one of them. The aiming can also feel a little awkward with the team, and sometimes the solo player can just get stuck without really being able to move much at all. It's just kind of a weird game for me. Number 66, Can Take Pancake. I feel like this one should be so much higher than it actually is, since you are literally just grabbing pancakes and bringing them to your plate. However, some pancakes, the ones with the stars on them to be precise, are worth more points than the standard ones. And in order to grab a pancake, you have to remove all the other pancakes on top of it, which turns the possession of the star ones into a game of chicken, where you almost need to wait for someone to grab the first pancake before you grab the next one. But if you're waiting too long, you might be missing out on other points too, so it makes this one a really hard minigame to approach in terms of strategy. Definitely feels like this would have been much better as a 1 vs 1 duel minigame, as opposed to a free-for-all. Also, the hitbox for grabbing pancakes can be a little deceptive too. where sometimes you feel like you should have grabbed one just to miss it and then have someone else take it from you in the process, which just makes the game kind of frustrating to play, even though the concept itself is really not that bad. Number 65, Social Climbers. Another really weird and awkward motion control game, only because in order to move, you have to not only swing the Joy-Con down vertically, but also hold and release the buttons on top of your Joy-Con as well, making it a very weird motion exercise. I have this higher than some of the last motion games because even despite this weird motion gimmick, I can still at least somehow get the win pretty consistently, even if it feels like I shouldn't. Also, Slim Bowser, what the hell are you doing? That looks very, very, very dangerous. Are you just showing off again?
You bet I am, Slim. You bet I am.
Number 64, Nutcases. A 2 vs 2 team game where you have to rely on Rumble to be your guide. Each box has a certain amount of acorns in them, and you need to hold onto the box and feel the rumble to determine how many nuts are in the box, with the stronger rumbles having more than the weaker ones. Then, each team needs to collect 5 boxes, and the team with more acorns at the end of the exercise will be the winners. Really, my only issue with this is that the rumbles can be a little misleading at times. You may feel a strong rumble, think it's a 5, just for it to end up being a 3. And since you will likely not be able to check every box in the field, you may get unlucky and never have the opportunity to find a 5 in the first place. It also requires a lot of trust in your partner, which, when my partner ends up being an AI, you can bet that all trust goes out the window. With a human, this becomes a lot more manageable, but still, there are plenty of other team minigames I'd rather play than this one. Number 63, Soak or Croak. I wish the arena was bigger on this one. That's really all I have to say. The concept itself is fine, really no different than any other knockout survival game. Having to reload your water cannon is an interesting touch, but I don't really feel like it adds a whole lot to this game either, aside from just making you vulnerable if you use all your shots too soon. And that's really about it. Number 62, Look Sharp. Another game with motion control, and it's fine, I guess. Just a little boring and almost a bit too easy. You just have to move your Joy-Con forward or backward until your view of each character is the most clear, and really it's just a matter of finding the right direction to move, waiting for the character to react, and zeroing in on that exact position you need. That's really about it. Number 61, Precision Gardening. Hey look, more motion control, but hey, at least the motion you need is pretty obvious since it's a literal pumping motion. Just gotta find the right rhythm and you should be good to go. And hey, it's even a new record minigame, so it has that novelty as well.
Hey Slim, did you ever notice with the perspective in that minigame that it actually makes it look like each character is actually—
No, don't say it, Slim Bowser.
Oh, come on, seriously. From the positioning of the hose, it really looks like—
No, la. Number 60, Take a Stab. I'm not super crazy about this rhythm game, but unlike the tablecloth one, I at least feel like this one works, making it, in general, fine. Although, admittedly, it can be hard to tell when exactly you need to use the Joy-Con motion. At least it's not as obvious as the other ones anyway. Still though, once you have it, it becomes pretty routine. Number 59, Pep Rally. Another rhythm game, but this one I feel like is way too short. Honestly, that's kind of a problem with the previous one too, but at least this one feels like it's slightly better to get into rhythm here. Number 58, All-Star Swingers. Like the last two, not bad, but just kind of a short rhythm game. It's kind of like Dinger Derby actually, but with rhythm physics involved, which isn't too bad. Number 57, Get Over It. A very simple jump over the obstacle minigame, but with ally and team participation involved. Honestly, it can be kind of tricky to determine when you have to jump, especially as the bigger characters like Bowser and Donkey Kong. Plus, the Growl goes at different speeds, making the timing even tighter for some of those slower movements. Not to mention, your allies can also mess you up if you're trying to focus, making it kind of an awkward experience to time it just right. Number 56, Penguin Pushers. Don't get this one confused with Pushy Penguins from Mario Party 5. This is a much different minigame. More like Boonanza from Mario Party 6, or that goat herding game in Zelda Twilight Princess. This is a co-op game, so you are all working together on this, but the characters not working with you are the penguins themselves. The idea of this one is simple. Guide the penguins around the arena and try to guide them into the gate at the bottom. Make sure one of your teammates is playing defense so they don't just go straight past the gate, and repeat as many times as necessary until they are all in there. I swear though, even if you have the perfect offense and defense, one or two penguins will still try to find a way around you, so be prepared to take a couple of laps during this one. It's just mandatory at this point. Number 55, Hammer and Sick'em. This game feels like it should be completely unfair and imbalanced in favor of the player with the most allies, as they have more bodies to whack balloons with. But thankfully the AI is very dumb, so you at least have some wiggle room to work with here. Just a matter of trying to knock out all the players before your own balloon is popped. The more active allies can make the arena kind of crowded mess sometimes, but I wouldn't say it's a major deterrent. Number 54, Net Worth. Another co-op minigame where you have to try and catch as many fish as possible in the time limit, using a net controlled by all 4 players at once, or should I say controlled by all human players at once, since the CPUs will always activate when the humans do. You have to time your catches so that you get as many fish grouped up together as possible, also take into consideration the less common gold cheeps, which are worth more points in the process. This means that sometimes it might be more advantageous to get a gold alongside a smaller group of fish, just so you don't miss the gold. This game is alright, nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done. Number 53, Strike It Rich. A rhythm game that meets the general quota of being a rhythm game while also paying homage to the series that this sub-series is based on. Can be a little hard to get the exact beat on this one, and sometimes even if you're just a little off, you could end up missing the coin blocks entirely, which is a little frustrating. Still though, it works fine for the most part, and is still a fine rhythm minigame. Number 52, Minor Setbacks. Guess it makes sense to have a co-op game like this on here. Basically a game where you and your opponents must navigate yourselves and your platform to the goal, while also avoiding getting stunned by all those pesky enemies in the process. Slim Bowser, how do you feel about this one?
I like this one because it shows off my strength, endurance, and team compatibility. Although I hate when the piranha plants start biting my butt. That's really annoying and painful.
You just couldn't help but bring up your ass again, couldn't you?
Hey, what can I say? The fans know what they like to hear about. Wink, wink.
Moving on. Number 51, Home on the Ring. Another cooperative minigame where you try to get as many points as possible by throwing boomerangs at pokies. Each time you hit one, you get a point, and if you strike the head, you get bonus points. Kind of like the Pokey Punch-Out game in Mario Party 6 when you really think about it. Overall, the game is fine, I don't really have any qualms about it, but it's just kind of middle of the road for the co-op category. It is kind of cool how you work together to desegment the pokies though, and the boomerang's return path is kind of nice to optimize to maximize points on this one. Number 50, Sign, Steal, Deliver. An interesting take on a 1 versus 3 minigame where the team of 3 has to collect and return packages to a delivery truck, and the solo player uses a drone for their pickups. The drone is fast and doesn't have to use the stairs for pickup, but can only get 1 package at a time, while the team of 3 can hold 2 at a time, but as I mentioned, have to climb up the stairs, plus the drone can actually steal one of their packages as well. To me, it feels like they couldn't really decide how they wanted to balance this one, so they kept adding further stipulations, and strangely enough, it does kind of work. I do prefer the single player here, although technically I feel like the team, when coordinated, can be pretty unstoppable if they get unhindered, but it's hard since the pickup spots can be pretty random. It's a decent game, but far from my favorite 1 versus 3. Number 49, Metal Detectors. Kind of in the same realm as Rumble Fishing, or that one bonus minigame in Mario Party 4, where you have to feel for rumbles and you get coins for each time you find something. It's a coin minigame, so really just a freebie whenever you get it, although it's kind of lame that you don't really have any sort of control over how big the paydays will be in each rumble spot. That's really its only negative though. Number 48, Maths of Glory. This is Mathletes and Cointagious done right. It's a 2 versus 2 team game where you roll dice blocks to do damage to the other team's castle. But here's the thing, you can actually time the dice, meaning it's not too hard to play this game effectively. However, it's admittedly pretty easy as a result. All you need is 2 rolls of nothing but 5s and 6s, and you pretty much win. It's that easy. Oh, and before I forget to mention the backdrop and setting of this minigame...
Pieces Game of the Year! What? I knew you were going to say it, and I wanted to see what the big fuss was all about.
Well?
Your memes are boring.
Number 47, it's the pits. Team minigame where the goal is basically to survive by not standing in the glowing section when the wheel stops. It's really not that hard to manage. You might make a mistake every now and then, but you may also have teammates who won't make that mistake, so you could be covered even if you do mess up. Number 46, perfect fit. I'm back and forth on this one. When you have a teammate that knows what they're doing, it can feel pretty rewarding to get a quick finish time on this one, even though the Joy-Con motion has thrown me through a loop at times. The trick is to have the bottom player move their side into position and then hold steady, while the other person rotates it until the match is made. When both people try to move at the same time, it will only lead to headaches, believe me. Number 45, Train in Pain. Another team minigame that controls fine, and is, in general, fine as a concept. But I can't help but feel like it's one where having a bunch of allies could make it heavily imbalanced. An ally-less player only has 1 hit and they're gone, and a player that has a bunch of allies can not only take more hits, but also shield themselves pretty well in the process because of their extra hits and length. Sure, the extra length will make those extra hits go quick, but if that player is smart, they may be able to wrap it up quickly before they even get to that point of vulnerability. Again, I like the game, I just feel like other team minigames utilize the ally mechanic a lot better. That's all. Number 44, Feeding Frenzy. Another motion control game that honestly doesn't feel too bad. Heck, probably one of the better games that utilize motion control, although it is pretty simple and not too hard to do well in. Sometimes the Joy-Con motion can have a little trouble determining whether you're throwing it high or low, which may cause some stray balls to fly around when you don't intend them to be. But sometimes they may just go into an open mouth anyway, so it's all good if that happens. Number 43, Time to Shine. Another rhythm game where you have to pose in rhythm with the Dance Master's instructions. It's good, and I don't have much to say beyond that. I will say though, I do kinda wish the Dance Master could be any character, and not just Waluigi and the 4 alternates in case they were already selected as a playable character. We need to see Bowser as the Dance Master here.
But that means someone wouldn't pick me as a playable character, and why would anyone do something as blasphemous as that?
I mean, good point, but still, look at Bowser's moves in DDR Mario Mix. That screams Dance Master more than anything that Waluigi can do.
Damn straight.
Number 42, Fiddler on the Hoof. Another rhythm game, and I actually kind of enjoy this one, with exception to the very end of it when the rhythm inputs get ridiculously fast and precise. Reminds me of those really fast single note sections in Guitar Hero. Yeah, you know the ones. Number 41, Baton and On. Earlier we had a bunch of rhythm games that were really short, and honestly, this one might be a little bit too long if I had to critique something. I will say though, it's fairly easy to keep the beat in this one, so it's not too hard to get a perfect score on if you pay attention, and that's pretty sweet. Number 40, Sizzling Steaks. I used to hate this game when I first played Super Mario Party, mainly due to the motion control, but I have definitely warmed up to it over time. It just requires a bit of a steady hand and precise flicking motions as you rotate your cube of meat around the frying pan. The punishment for flipping it out of your pan and having to start over from scratch though is very annoying. I almost wish you would just get a penalty or something instead. However, give me this game over the candy jar minigame any day. Number 39, Snack Attack. This might seem a bit low, especially considering how well games like Coney Island have done in the past, but I don't know, I have issues with this one. The fact you can lose popcorn kinda sucks, especially since the hitbox of the meteors can be a bit unpredictable at times, and sometimes it can just be really hard to take advantage of areas where a lot of popcorn rains down at once. Coney Island just feels like a much better experience for me personally.
Oh, come on, Slim. There's nothing wrong with this minigame. Don't be such a... Wait a minute. Why the hell am I so tiny?
Aw, how cute. Bowser looks the same size as a Goomba. You could pick him up and put him right in your pocket.
Don't patronize me, Slimbo. Bowser comes in only one size, and that's frickin' huge. And don't you ever forget it.
Number 38, Off the Chain. You know, I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen a game like this, although given 1 vs 3s haven't been common in a lot of the modern games. Still though, it's a very classic premise of single player trying to eliminate the team of 3, this time by controlling a rowdy chain chomp. The chomp can be a little hard to control, but only in the sense of balancing the game so the solo player doesn't have too easy of a time. However, its fast and unpredictable movements could also work in the solo player's favor, so keep that in mind as well. Number 37, Smash and Crab. Another 1 vs 3 game, but now the shoe is on the other foot, as the single player tries to survive and the team of 3 pilot a giant crab robot that's trying to smash them. 2 players from the team control the 2 main hammers, while the other player controls the left and right movements of the crab, which is kinda cool how a game with 2 sides, there's technically 3 different control options, which really makes it feel like there is more to do for each individual player. Overall, it's a good 1 vs 3 game, and I don't really have too many issues with it. Number 36, Drop Shot. Another 1 vs 3 game, and one I think works pretty well for both sides. Definitely prefer being the single player because it can be kind of fun to try and time your shots to hit the other players, but if I get stuck as the team of 3, I'm not complaining either, as it's really just an exercise in trying to stay on your toes. It's also nice that for the single player, it's not just aiming, but also timing, as you have to actually hit the bomb when it's in the swinging distance, which would have made the game too easy otherwise if it was automatic. Number 35, Block and Load. The last 1 vs 3 minigame we'll have for a bit, but I like this one because it takes concepts we've seen before and makes them a little different. In this case, both sides try to completely demolish something, and while the single player has stronger ammunition, capable of knocking down many blocks at once, it's also a lot slower, while the team of 3 have much weaker shots that can rapid fire more easily. And the game itself feels pretty balanced too. Always a novelty for a 1 vs 3 minigame. Number 34, Juice Box. A very simple team game where you and your partner must pay attention to the picture grid in front of you and make a match that copies the sample picture to earn a point. And after 3 points, the winning side is declared. Very simple and easy, but always a welcome appearance for me if it shows up in a team game. Number 33, Tall Order. Despite being a motion game, this is another game that doesn't bother me too much. You and your partner must crush ice so it lands on your platform below as it sways back and forth between the 2 players. The goal is to build your tower or sculpture as high as you can to beat the other team, so you and your partner need to do your best to distribute the ice equally and strategically so you can make the tallest structure. It can be difficult to get a good sense of balance here, but when you have a solid teammate with you, it can be fun to see how high of a score you can get. Also, look at the gorgeous background, the Aurora Borealis and everything.
Aurora Borealis. At this time of day, at this time of year, in this part of the video, located entirely within this minigame?
Yes.
May I see it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Wait a minute. Did you just get me to involuntarily do a steamed hams bit in this video?
Yes.
I hate you.
Number 32, Go with the Flow. A pretty interesting co-op minigame where you must work together with your teammates to collect as many balloons as possible. This is a game that is definitely more fun with all human players, as the AI can be incredibly stupid. But yeah, it's really about just controlling your wind currents to capitalize on your gains, and trying not to overextend yourself so that your following teammate doesn't get screwed out of points in the process, since the balloon layouts are completely random. It's also 3 rounds too, so plenty of time to aim for that best ranking. Number 31, Fireplace Race. A nice co-op minigame where you need to light a bunch of torches with all your teammates. You get a brief look at the layout at the beginning and every now and then when the lightning flashes, so you aren't completely in the dark. Look out for those swoopers though, as they'll pick you up and take you back to start, losing control of your character for a few seconds. Slim Bowser, I have no idea how the hell those bats can lift you, by the way.
Neither can I, Slimbo. Neither can I.
Number 30, Fruit Forecast. Probably the most basic and simple 2 vs 2 minigame in this entire game, maybe even the entire series. You literally just move back and forth and try to collect as much fruit as possible, and both sides are balanced so that one member from one team is on the top and the other member is on the bottom, respectively. So it works pretty well. Textbook 2 versus 2 minigame, I must say. Number 29, Rhythm and Bruise. I feel really bad for the Monty Mole in this game. He looks so distressed that he has to hit his own kind. But yeah, as a rhythm game, this is pretty good. Which I hate saying due to our friend Monty here, but still, it's not too short, and it doesn't really overstay its welcome either. Plus, you really get a feeling for the rhythm involved as well, which makes it really nice. Number 28, Bumper Brawl. You know me, I've never really been a huge fan of bumper balls in the past. In fact, my ranking of it in top 100 is probably the best the concept has ever done. But I do actually kind of like what they were going for in this team and ally game. Let me state for the record, this game can get pretty chaotic, and it's not too uncommon to accidentally get hit at an inopportune time and lose all control of your ball. But at least if you have some allies on your side, it's not completely hopeless, assuming they don't also get knocked out. My recommendation here is trying to stay in the middle, always in between players and never on the ends, and only be aggressive if you think you can get away with it. It's got a little bit of chaos, but a hint of strategy and moderation as well, which I do respect, so good work on this one, devs. Number 27, Rowboat Uprising. The devs really dropped the ball with the Tug of War clone earlier, but at least the Paddle Battle clone did significantly better. Honestly, this is probably the best paddling game in the entire series, so I applaud the effort here. Anyway, this is another team and ally game, so prepare for lots of imbalanced scenarios as a player with 4 allies paddles with someone who has 0, and that imbalance will be felt as well. But even then, I feel like the main idea of this game is simply just to feel the impact of your movements and adjust accordingly so you can work with your partner to make it to the end. Those who have more allies won't need to paddle as much, so they can take a more relaxed approach and only paddle to keep forward momentum, while those who have less allies know they need to work a little harder. The balance will never be perfect, of course, but I feel like that's kind of the point of this game, and I think it does a good job of highlighting that. Number 26, Stake Your Claim. Another minigame I like to classify as a picture game, where you're given some kind of visual puzzle, and you have to make the right selection. This time, you have to choose the colored squares that have the most area of squares, and you get points based on each round's individual ranking, with the winner, of course, being who has the most points after 5 rounds. It can actually be kind of hard picking the best option each round too, but as long as you're somewhat consistent in your selections, you should still do pretty well here. Number 25, Sort of Fun. Maybe this is higher than it should be, because as the name suggests, it's sort of fun, I guess. Honestly, it's a really simple but fun co-op game, where you're basically sorting and passing sports balls to your teammates so they can throw them in the right containers. It honestly can be a fun game to try and optimize to see how high of a score you can get, despite not even being a high score minigame. Number 24, Lost in the Shuffle. We've seen this type of game a couple of times during the DS and 3DS era, and it's the basic watch the things and pick the correct one type of game. Kind of like Shell Game from Mario Party 1. This version's not bad, but it's only 1 round, which prevents it from getting higher. It is kind of clever with how they determine 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place though, based on the other selections and which ones have more of the little toad figurines inside. Number 23, Absent Minded. Another picture game, although this one is more focused on paying attention to the board and picking the character that is not part of the puzzle, which each of the rounds obscuring the other pictures in one manner or another. Some rounds will be easier than others depending on what the challenge is and what answers you have at your disposal, but it's still a pretty solid minigame, I think. Number 22, Looking for Love. Step aside, look away, and don't look from previous titles. I think this game is probably the best version of this idea. 10 quick rounds of trying to look in the correct direction, signified by the heart icon that will show up every round. In some rounds it'll be easier than others since there's the limited number of icons and directions, but future rounds you'll have way more to pay attention to, and the icons will start having different colors as well, so you really need to stay on your toes, making it a really good exercise.
This is ridiculous. This game doesn't give me any tips on how to find love.
Oh, Slim Bowser, you're trying to get involved with someone? Well, I think I know a cute pink dinosaur who's looking for some nice companionship, and I think she'd really be into you. You want me to give her your phone number?
Oh, come on. You're just trying to set me up with Birdo again, aren't you? Well, no way I'm letting you be my fixer-upper. I'm not that desperate. Give me your number.
After the video, big guy, we still have quite a few left to get through. Number 21, Spearmongers. It's like Hungry Hungry Hippos, but without the hippos, and instead giant magnets used to attract metallic balls into your corner pockets. This game can be really fun, although it's admittedly a bit irritating when other players start to push you around and bully you, as sometimes that can cause your attacked balls to fall back into the field, or worse, onto your opponent's magnet. Plus, there can be some RNG involved with when and where the gold balls drop, ones that are worth more points and pivotal to solidify in a first place. Definitely not my favorite, but I do think it has a lot of good points going for it. Number 20, Lightning Round. A simple coin collecting game where you dodge the onslaught of the sumo bros and try to collect as much money as you can. There's a small bit of luck involved with where coins spawn, and another player may end up reaping those benefits ahead of you, but I feel like there is plenty of time to get some kind of payout from this one, so don't despair if you're off to a bad or lukewarm start. Number 19, Dust Buddies. It's kind of funny, but much like Rumble Fishing, this is another game that shares the same exact title with another minigame in this franchise, and in this game's case, it was actually the number 1 from Mario Party DS. Unfortunately, this game couldn't quite get the same exact accolades though, but it's still a really good 1 vs 3 game, and it's actually quite simple too. The single player has a much larger vacuum and can cover more area with their nozzle, while the team of 3 must all work from the same vacuum with 3 separate nozzles. Basically a simple test of which is more efficient, size or number of players. The team really has to be on their game though with movement, as players going in opposite directions could potentially hold your team back from getting enough dust, so make sure you are very thorough with your sections. And if necessary, maybe try to just box out the single player and prevent him from being able to make quick progress. Whatever works, I suppose. Number 18, Barreling Along. It's another motion game, but thankfully the motion is pretty minimal. Just a matter of tilting the Joy-Con forward to keep moving, with light turning here and there to try and navigate the course more efficiently, staying out of the grass as much as possible, and also trying to make contact with the speed boosters before your opponents do, so you can solidify that first place finish. My one issue that keeps this game from getting higher is, you guessed it, course variations. The fact there is only one general layout for this is kinda disappointing, because it is actually a pretty fun game otherwise. Number 17, Cruisin' for a Bruisin'. Keep your ass moving on this one, folks, because you got some punchy ghost creatures on your tail, and they are gaining on you fast.
Hey, did you just say something about my ass?
No, Slim Bowser! Oh my god. Anyway, this is a simple test of survival, and some technical movement here and there as well. You only have 2 paths to choose from at each fork in the road, but one of the paths on each cycle will have a series of boxes you have to navigate around, which will give the bruisers a chance to catch you, while the other path is just a straight shot forward. Little bit of luck involved, sure, but as long as you are persistently aggressive, you should be fine. Just keep holding forward and make small adjustments whenever needed. Hell, my strategy is just to stick to one side for the entire game, regardless of what comes my way, just so I can stay focused on moving forward. Number 16, Follow the Money. Screw this minigame in Challenge Road, but thankfully we are not exclusively playing this in Challenge Road now, are we? Honestly, as a free-for-all coin minigame, this is pretty cool. You would think moving to the front would allow you first dibs at all the coins along the path, but additional coins will appear from behind over time, so you have to kind of strategize and moderate your aggressiveness a little bit if you want to capitalize on some nice gains. It works pretty well, I gotta say. Number 15, Trip Navigator. Holy cow, did Donkey Kong go on a gluttonous potassium spree or something? That's a lot of banana peels on the ground. Unfortunately for us, this does make a fairly interesting minigame concept though, as you try to make your way to the center, trying to avoid as many peels as possible. Every time you hit one, you are stunned for a few seconds, although it will also make the peel disappear as well, potentially allowing you to cut some extra time for your journey. Also, since it's not inherently obvious what the best path is, you can kind of use this to your advantage. Stick to a wider path at first so you can keep moving, and as you get closer to the goal, try tanking a few hits just to see if you can maybe edge out a few of your opponents to the goal line.
And for my size, that's practically a requirement. I mean, look at my beastly body. How do they expect me to walk through all these narrow spaces?
Very true. Honestly surprised this was a game where they didn't decrease your model size. Number 14, Senseless Census. A nice variation on the roll call concept where you have to travel up and down through a train car and count all the toads in the vicinity, trying not to get tripped up by all the items that look like Toad and the fact that some of the mushroom folk are moving around the train car. Since not everything is on one screen, it makes the challenge of counting a little more difficult, which in turn makes the strategy of copying much less appealing, yet still very much in play to do so as well. I think ultimately Goomba spotting does the counting concept the best, but I do think this game had a pretty solid take on it as well. Honestly, probably even better than roll call if I'm being honest. Number 13, Half the Battle. I always kind of forget that this minigame exists, which is a shame because it is kind of a fun one, and probably one of the best ally and team minigames in the entire package. You have to collect half pieces of these medallions, and meet up with your partner team in the middle of the arena to form whole medallions, each one giving you 1 point. Now, as usual in these games, differences in ally distribution will play a factor, so make sure you aren't wasting too much time if your partner only has a single ally while you're rocking your max number of 4. It's a really neat idea for a minigame though, even considering the fact that I forget it's even here half the time. Number 12, Dine and Dash. This game has a whole new meaning for me now that I've played the game Overcooked. Thankfully though, we're just making very simple BLTs, so there isn't too much to worry about. Honestly, it's a really great 2 vs 2 minigame, definitely beating the likes of Order Up from Mario Party 4, and it really emphasizes the use of teamwork quite well, as one player should always focus on going long in case one of the next ingredients is on the far side of the restaurant. Much like some of the other team games, it's another one that's quite fun to see how well you can optimize it, and see if you can get a good score, even if it isn't technically a new record minigame. Really the only annoyance is having your path blocked by the other team, or the other random Toad NPCs that are roaming around the restaurant. And even then, it's by design, so I can't really fault the game too much for that. It's still really, really good. Number 11, Isthmus. My god. Isthmus. Number 11, Isthmus. My god, I can't say that. Isthmus Be the Way. Hey look, it's Pat's Apparel from Mario Party 4, but with an entire group of players cooperating together this time. Don't have much to say about this one. It's overall really solid, and based off of a concept that has clearly worked well before, so not much could be done to screw it up. Plus, I like how there are a variety of different course layouts too, which always makes it feel like a slightly different experience every time you play it. Also, unrelated to the game's quality, I really like how if you shake the Joy-Con while waiting for your turn, your character will start to wave towards the camera.
I'm waving to all my wonderful fans to let them know how much I appreciate their love, support, and undying devotion to my great cause. You guys are wonderful. Don't ever change.
Slim Bowser, are you crying?
No! It started raining on this exact spot for only a few seconds. You just didn't see it because you're such a dork.
Wow, low blow, but fine, moving on. Number 10. Welcome to the top 10, everybody. I know it might seem like this category in particular got a bit snubbed in the rankings, but I assure you, a majority of these games are good. It's just hard when you're playing a game where even in the top 60, you could consider the games okay at the absolute worst. There's just so much good quality here in Super Mario Party. Wiped Out is my pick for best rhythm minigame, and it's because it just feels good to play. It doesn't last too long, nor is it too short. It has a nice flow to it with how you use the Joy-Con and rhythm mechanics, and it's not incredibly easy or free either, as even I trip up sometimes near the end when the beats get faster. It's a really good minigame and continues the tradition of cleaning games somehow being based in the Mario Party series. Seriously, what's up with that? Number 9. Let's get another category out of the way in the form of the 1 vs 3 minigames. My final top pick for this category is the minigame Bopping Spree, where the basic goal is to punch the correct bag a certain number of times until you max out the meter. The solo player works alone, but they work on the inside of their area, while the team of 3 works more on the outside with more area to cover, but more bodies to work with. Kind of one of those game balances that just somehow works out, as it always feels like these games come down to quite literally the last punches, no matter what side you're on. Maybe the solo player has it slightly easier, especially if they get into a nice rhythm, but it can be fun working as the team too, so I appreciate what this game has to offer. Number 8. Hey, Slim Bowser, are you getting hungry?
As a matter of fact, yeah, I am. Doing a giant list like this is hard work. I could use some nice spicy chicken right about now.
Well, I'm fresh out of that at the moment, but how about some nice, sweet-tasting pies? Make sure you get your fill before this minigame, though, because in this 2 vs 2 team fest called Pie Hard, you will be chucking them at the other team, trying to score as many hits as possible. This game is quite simple, but quite fun as well. The only challenge is really making sure you have the right angle before you throw in your pie, and then trying to potentially fake out your opponents with your movements to avoid getting hit in return. The key is finding the best opening, usually when a player is restocking their ammunition, but don't take your eye off the other player though either. It's what makes this game especially engaging as a 2 vs 2 team game.
Also, when the game is over, you get to see how covered everyone is with the pie contents. Yeah, look at how delicious I look.
Moving on. Number 7. Get ready for a bunch of back-to-back team games, because I have to say, the team game department is really where Super Mario Party shines. And not just because of the partner party mode, but the minigames themselves are so well executed. Not that I'm trying to toe the line here or anything.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Anyway, this is another 2 vs 2 game where you and your partner must maneuver around the pegs and have your string of yarn match the sample design in the center. It can be a little tricky since you almost need to move yourselves in a certain manner so that your string doesn't get tangled around other pegs that it's not supposed to, but as long as one person takes the lead in getting the design started, the other player can make sure the rest of the design flows smoothly and that all the right turns have been made. When you're with a like-minded human player, this can be a really fun exercise, although it's not uncommon to run into some people who may struggle with this one a bit. Just make sure you have solid communication with your partner, and again, take the lead if you are more adapted to this than they are. They'll figure it out before too long. Number 6. Facelift has come a long way since Mario Party 1, evolving from a simple game of pulling Bowser's cheeks to other unique puzzle and picture games that involve matching a quota and trying to come as close to meeting that quota as possible. Making faces is what I consider this game's version of Facelift, and although you aren't directly moving the facial features, you are trying to make a face as accurate as possible, and you are actually working with a teammate on this one too, so another 2 vs 2 game. This is actually a little more similar to the face constructing minigame in Super Mario Odyssey now that I think about it, but still, the objective is still largely the same. Heck, making Bowser's face is actually one of the variations here.
Yeah, so you better make me look good, or I'm gonna reconstruct your face by burning it off.
Whoa, hold up there, big guy. Don't forget, you can actually work on Mario's face too.
Really? Does that mean I can put his eyes where his mouth is, and put his mouth on the side of his ear, making him look as ridiculous as possible?
Well, yeah, of course.
Cool. I love this game already. Here, let me just change it to number 1, and then...
No, Slim Bowser, you can't just change my list like that. Just please, don't touch anything. We're almost done, okay? Anyway, this game is great. It's fun, it's based off of a classic concept, and it can actually be a little tricky too, since you really need to pay attention to facial features to get the right positioning down, but feels really rewarding when you get a high score. Only negative, really just wishing there were more than just the 2 faces, honestly. They really could have done with a lot more. Number 5. River Survival and the co-op minigames that came alongside it were really solid additions that I feel got overlooked from time to time, just because this mode is locked to local play with no real way to play this online. My favorite minigame of this batch of games, though, is probably the game Fetch Quest, a game that requires you and your teammates to grab all the jewels and bring them to the center, passing them from player to player as you make contact with them. Not only that, but some gems are located behind doors that require another player to stand on a switch, so there's a lot of teamwork that goes into play for this one, making it a perfect cooperative experience. Another shining aspect is the fact that there are also multiple layouts and variations of this, so you'll never get the same board twice on back-to-back playthroughs, which is a nice touch. I like to think of these games as tributes to games like Running of the Bulb and Keep Away from Mario Party 1, games that have a fully cooperative mindset despite being labeled as 4-player minigames, something the series never really went back to until this title, interestingly enough. It did really show the potential of these games though, and is something I would like to see the developers put more stock into moving forward with this series. Number 4. This is the last team-based game, I promise, but still, you gotta give credit to the developers for doing a solid job with these team games. And although the games where you have your allies as additional soldiers have been pretty hit or miss in some cases, particularly in the balancing department, this was probably the best utilization of this mechanic, making a minigame out of a very short and sweet soccer game, just for kicks. And yeah, true, the players with more allies will have an advantage for sure, but since the AI for the allies is pretty weak, it's not really a huge hill you have to climb to overcome that threshold, as long as you know what you're doing, of course. Still though, I'm surprised they didn't make a more fleshed out version of this, like some of the sports games in the GameCube era. I don't know, it could have been fun just to be able to play this for longer than just a minute, you know? Number 3. Some of you have probably been patiently waiting for me to make this particular ranking, as I've called attention to this minigame several times in previous lists, and reference to how this game is a much better improvement on Mario Party 10's Flash Forward. But seriously, Slapperazzi is superior in every conceivable way, and an excellent and fun minigame to boot. The goal is quite simple: make your way to the front of the photographer and his camera, and try to be the center and most prominent character in the photo he snaps. You get points based on how well you accomplish this compared to the other players, and unlike Flash Forward, which ends after a single attempt, you actually repeat this process for a couple of rounds, allowing you to further extend your lead or catch up if you make a mistake. And really, additional rounds is honestly all this concept needed, but even just trying to place yourself in a good position, and potentially trying to shove your opposition away from the picture, just feels way more natural here than it did in its predecessor, and to me, that just shows that it was a good idea to begin with, just needed a little more time and work to make it great. And that's just what this version accomplished. And then some when you consider that this game is in my top 3 for crying out loud. Number 2. Only 2 games left, and let me just say that I am not at all surprised to see these 2 here, because from the moment I played these games, I knew they were going to be top contenders. First up, taking second place, we have Gridiron Gauntlet, a survival game where you need to avoid the brutal onslaught of some charge and chuck enemies, and try to be the last player standing. We've had a lot of games like this in past titles, but I can't help but feel like this one just personally stands out for me. Sure, the fact that they are using my favorite enemies from Super Mario World definitely helps, but beyond that, I just think it feels pretty smooth and controls very well, even when you're locked to Joy-Con controls. Also, you don't immediately get eliminated either if you get hit, so if you get caught off guard or still trying to develop a system for this game, you do have that luxury to make a comeback, which is always appreciated.
This game is great. It's truly the type of challenge that will turn a rookie into a master. I plan to have all my troops take on the challenge of this game as the most intense training regiment they've ever experienced.
That's actually a great idea, Slim Bowser. Then all your largest soldiers can have their model drastically shrink like you in this minigame as well. Look at the little pocket-sized Bowser.
Hey! I'm not supposed to be that small!
I'm just teasing, Slim Bowser, it's alright. Anyway, let's get to the last one. Number 1. I think back to my Let's Play of this game, and heck, probably even the first time I ever streamed Super Mario Party during its first release days, and it seems like no matter what, this game just always seemed to be first on my radar, and now that the game has been out for a couple of years now, I feel like I can completely confirm and solidify Fuzzy Flight School to be my favorite minigame of this title. Like the previous game, it's another survival game, but structured more as a make-it-to-the-end type of exercise, as you try to move around the room and dodge the fuzzies in your path. Some of the rooms will be a lot easier than others, allowing you to just hang out in the corner and avoid all contact, but other times you'll really need to bob and weave around these guys to keep your airborne machine in perfect or near-perfect condition. Making it to the end of this game feels almost like a rite of passage for me, and not just in the normal variation, but also the Mariothon version of this challenge, which extends the course by an additional 30 seconds at least. Which, fun fact, Gridiron Gauntlet does that too, so that's something the top 2 definitely have in common. Want to know the most interesting thing though? Despite how much I dislike motion controls, this game is fully motion controlled, and I honestly don't feel like the motion negatively impacts the game at all. The movements just feel incredibly smooth, and it just kind of works for it, and for a game like this, that's quite the accomplishment, because bad controls could have easily ruined a challenge like this. It's no surprise that when it comes to Fuzzy Flight School, this minigame is quite literally at the top of the class. And that's why it is my favorite minigame in Super Mario Party. And that's going to do it for this game's ranking. Before I forget, I did mention I would talk about Toad's Rec Room games, and where I would potentially rank those in comparison with this list. Shell Shock Deluxe is okay, but incredibly simple, and doesn't have a whole lot of replay value in my own honest opinion. So, probably low 60s or high 50s. Mini Baseball League, despite being a very simplistic baseball game, being more like a baseball toy more than anything, is actually kind of fun, and I have had some good times playing it. So I'd probably put it somewhere in the 40s, or maybe just inside the top 40. And then Puzzle Hustle, this game's puzzle game, I think easily belongs in the top 20, maybe even the top 15. It's just a lot of fun, and I like the ability for other players being able to join in co-op fashion as well. I'm also not ranking Banana Split, because I've never personally been in a position to ever play it, as it's one of those games you can't even play without multiple switches, so not even gonna bother putting a ranking for it at all. Well, Slim Bowser, it's been a pleasure as always dealing with your silly antics, but I think it's time we start wrapping this video up, huh?
I guess.
Hey, what's wrong, big guy?
Mario Party Superstars is next, and I'm not playable in that game. More than that, who knows if Nintendo will ever make me playable in another Mario Party game. Super Mario Party allowed me to show off my strength, my cunning, and most importantly, my charm and charisma. Who knows if that will ever happen again.
Aw, don't fret it, Slim Bowser. I have faith that Bowser will be back playable in another Mario Party game at some point. He's got a lot of passionate and vocal fans out there, and to some degree, I think Nintendo knows that. They just need to open up their minds and see Bowser as more than just the troublemaker or the bringer of bad events in Mario Party. And I think as fans continue to push that, maybe we'll see Bowser back as a playable character in no time.
I really hope for your sake that you're right. Well, I'm gonna blow this joint and head on out of here before you rudely hang up on me again. Laters.
I knew he was probably still bitter about that. Let's hope he doesn't know how to hold on to a grudge for too long, anyway. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. I have a feeling this was a pretty lengthy one, mainly due to all the Slim Bowser stuff, plus I just had a lot to say about this game and the minigames in it. I still think this is the best modern Mario Party game we have, and was a great direction for the series, and I really hope the developers don't get too locked on the Superstars format from here on out, because I do think there is some potential here still. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. I know that there have been rumors for another Mario Party game to be revealed at the next Nintendo Direct, so we'll have to see what happens there. I'm not going to plug my Twitch channel or my Mario Party streams this time because, well, I'm actually taking a break from that content for a while. Season 2 is wrapped up, and I want to potentially jumpstart some other streams and projects I've had in mind, so it's probably going to be a bit until I get back to the Mario Party grind. However, I will come back to it at some point at least. It's a series I love and have always enjoyed, and I can't see myself straying too far from it. Don't be surprised if you don't see it for the rest of 2024 though, or at the very least until the end of the year. Just need some time away from chance time, luck-based minigames, and button mashers. That's all. Well guys, we have just one more game left to rank, and I have a feeling that it's gonna be pretty similar to our previous video actually, because it's Mario Party Superstars time. Prepare to see a lot of the minigames we saw in Top 100, and probably similar placements, but how will the Superstars versions do? Not to mention all the games that came back for Superstars, but not Top 100. Stay tuned, because we're gonna find that out next time. This has been SlimKirby, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later folks, and always remember to party on. Later folks.